Going live in three, two, one. Oh, this is the uh, episode number 9 of the. Which I'm sorry, hold on a second. I'm trying to bring something up here. Episode number 9 of the Working Title Experience, and tonight we have Anna back on this evening. Hi, Anna. How are you
Hey,
doing?
how's it going? Yeah, you got it right the second time. I'll take that.
Sorry, I know I keep on. I got to stop doing that. I got to
That's
stop.
okay. It's phonetically Anna, so it's not your fault.
So how are you doing as far as the weather where you're at?
Oh, it's perfect. Tampa Bay is awesome. Yeah, and this is usually the winter time is when it's a little bit cooler, so it's not as hot and humid. But yeah, today was probably right around the 70, 72 3 mark, and it's phenomenal. That's why I moved to Florida.
Well, DC, I think is today is the first day of the year that DC got above 70. So we
Oh,
we've been pretty cold. The last week and the past 2 weeks we had snow. Now it's like really warm, but
that's
I
bizarre.
think I think it's just a temporary thing. I think we're going back to like the 50s next week. So
Oh, wow, okay. But
yeah,
70s, I mean, you guys must be in like flip-flops and tank tops out there.
I had to try to turn on the air conditioning yesterday, and unfortunately, I have 3 air conditioner units. 2 of them but one went bad at the end of last summer. The other, which I have in my studio, was just blowing warm air.
Mm-hmm.
The third one, I didn't have an extension cord, so basically yesterday I had no air conditioning at all. So I
Oh,
was
that's not good.
in a hot studio. So this morning I made sure to order a new air conditioning unit. So they say it'll be here within the next couple of days, and I got the extension cord for the other one, so now I had that one going all day, so that was better than nothing. So,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, I won't be too hot for the next. It's supposed to be close to 80 tomorrow.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay. Yeah, it's getting real warm.
where you are, you don't get the humidity though, do you?
Oh, no, we get a lot of humidity, just usually not this time of year.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, Florida's very hot and humid place most months.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that. I wasn't sure how it was down there.
Mm-hmm.
I do have I would like to start off with a question. So now you can actually see the screen. That's
Yes, all of
we
the
tested
updates have
this.
been made. We're doing good.
Yeah, so now Anna can actually see what I'm talking about, and that helps the progress of the show. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the question of today. Now, usually I don't. I usually try to keep the questions lighthearted,
Mm-hmm.
but today I decided to be slightly more political in this. I don't. It's not really controversial, but it's not exactly family friendly either. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. So the question of today was: should Andrew Cuomo be in prison?
Mm-hmm.
And so the 5 answers I gave was yes, no, I don't know who Andrew Cuomo is, I don't care, and
What?
I don't
28% don't know who Cuomo is, but okay, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that one was kind of surprising too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the overwhelming, well, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but the majority of people definitely 63% said yes, he should be in prison. So there were some comments down below where people were arguing about how they didn't know who he was, and
Well, what do you think?
well, I don't know exactly what's going on with all are these the allegations that the woman had brought up, are these rape allegations? What is that exactly?
No, sexual harassment. So, uh, Alex Jones has come out of the woodwork yet again on the Andrew Schultz podcast, which I'm a big
Oh,
fan of. It's called Flagrant 2.
you're
He has a
just
couple.
hey, can you bring it up a little bit? You're a little low on the volume there.
Yeah, how's that?
Still about the same, about the same.
Hmm, let's
Well, if
see.
that's good. If that's the best you can do, that's fine. It just seemed a little low on this end.
Okay, let's try this. Is that a
Yeah, that's
little bit
good.
better?
That's better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was recently listening to Alex Jones. It's like nearly a 3 hour podcast, but I was trying to listen to, the highlights of it. And he touched on this, and I thought that he brought up some really great points about the whole Andrew Cuomo thing. So he kind of has like a double scandal going on, right? So at the beginning, it was all about the nursing homes, right? He was putting, and we knew this back pretty early after the pandemic hit. He was sending people to nursing homes knowing that they were sick, knowing that the nursing homes wouldn't be able to accommodate them. And what was happening is so that it wouldn't look like a lot of people were dying at the nursing homes. What he was telling people to do, what he was ordering people to do, is that when people got sick beyond the point of recovery, he would say send them to the hospital. So they would end up dying at the hospital. So it would look like a hospital death, even though they were sent to the nursing home essentially to die, but technically died at the hospital. So to kind of cover up and show that it wouldn't be a nursing home death. So I think it's roughly like 16,000 people ended up dying because of that.
Mm,
So, as kind of like a bait and switch, and Alex Jones was talking about this, and it was actually a really, really good point. He said the best way to cover up a story is with another story. So that's exactly what they did. Is like it first came out that Andrew Cuomo had sent all these people to the nursing homes, blah blah blah, and then right when that started getting some heat, boom! Now we have these sexual harassment allegations, and it's kind of forgivable stuff. Like it's not like he raped anybody or he held them down and drugged them and pulled a Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein or anything like that. It was like he touched people inappropriately, but it's kind of vague, or like he touched my face and I didn't like that in public. He made it like an allusion to like, oh, why don't you eat the whole sausage? Like just kind of like creepy old guy stuff, but forgivable stuff, right? Nothing like abominable. That's the word I'm looking for. Reprehensible. So they're really trying to bury that nursing home story where he's essentially like caused 16,000 people to die. I mean, maybe they would have died anyways, but the fact that he told people to, send them to nursing homes. So it's what, in effect, they're trying to kind of cover up that story with the sexual harassment allegations because now 6 women have come forward. Why would they come forward now? Like again, you have to kind of look at the timing. It seems to be a bit curious. So
right. But there's no. It's still pure speculation that it's about the timing. It's not. There's nothing conclusive about the fact that this.
no, no, there's nothing conclusive about really anything. But it's a bit odd that all of a sudden now it's coming out right, literally on top of overlapping with the nursing home scandal. And another thing that Alex Jones brought up, again, he's not my prophet, but he was making some good points. And I fact checked him, and he was right that a lot of other governors were ordering the same thing in terms of the nursing homes. They're like, send the sick people to the nursing homes because we don't have enough room in the hospitals. Remember, they were worried about they didn't have enough ventilators. They weren't going to be able to intubate people as needed. So they're like, just send these people back to the nursing homes. If they get sick, whatever, they're old, they're going to die anyways. Send them back to the hospital so that it looks like a hospital death when they're beyond the point of, no return.
Okay, that sounds like I mean, that's a pretty strong allegation right there. That to make it look like it's going to be a,
I
a
mean, that's
regular.
what happened. That's what they were told. I mean, there's a
Oh, they
few
were told that.
whistleblowers.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
people came
okay. I
forward
didn't know
and
that.
was like, we're like, yeah, we were told once they got to the point where they were about to die, send them back to the hospital, and then we can record it on the death certificate that they died at the hospital. But
Oh,
really,
okay.
they were sent to suffer at the nursing homes. And this came out on New York Post as well. The Michigan governor, I forget Whitner or something like that.
Mhm.
She was told to do the same thing. So Alex Jones was kind of saying that they're trying to make Andrew Cuomo this sacrificial lamb because he was kind of like the darling of the pandemic. Remember, it was like he was giving press briefings every day. Like him and Fauci were almost like fetishized in a
But
weird way, where it was like, I mean, Cuomo won an Emmy for this shit, and he's a politician. Like it's insane. So he's giving these speeches every day, and like I remember seeing all these things on Twitter about older women like looking forward to hearing Cuomo give talks about what was happening. You know what I mean? Because everything was closed down, so people had very little to look forward to, clearly.
right.
So
But I'm curious though as to you're saying that these women's allegations came up at such a convenient time. But I mean, either way, it makes them look bad. I mean, how is this how is bringing these 6 women how does this it's not helping him in any way?
Well, it's kind of covering up the scandal of the nursing homes because now there's a buzz about the sexual harassment allegations, and people are more focused on that, which is a more forgivable crime.
Okay.
He's kind of creepy, he's kind of old. You cover that story, the nursing home story. Now everybody's talking about, the sexual harassment allegations. Maybe we can kind of forgive him on that, and then it kind of buries the other story because we have to remember how quick the news cycle is. People can we call it like at work getting squirreled, like you get distracted by something. You know how squirrels are, like you just one thing over here, one thing over there. So they're really trying to distract the public with, away from the nursing home thing because in the event that he was responsible for like 16,000 deaths, that's not a forgivable mistake or crime or whatever you want to call, it's essentially a crime, but that's not a forgivable move, but maybe being a creepy old man is. So they're trying to kind of have everybody
I
forget
well,
about the nursing home thing because we're talking about the allegations. Like everyone's talking. If you look on the news, it's like the sexual allegation, harassment allegations. It's like it seems like an odd flex to talk about, to talk about one bad thing over another bad thing that someone has done.
yeah, but I
But
wouldn't say a
yeah.
sexual allegation is forgivable. I think you mean it's just the lesser of two evils, though, is what you mean.
Well, again, it's not like he raped anybody. They're not suggesting that he raped anybody. That would be horrendous. They're saying that he touched someone inappropriately. He made some inappropriate comments about playing strip poker, or he told some woman, like, hey, can you fit the whole sausage in your mouth? Like, stuff that's just kind of like gross, but not like a heinous predator. Not like a Cosby, not like a Weinstein, not like an Epstein, nothing like that. So people are, I feel like, more likely to forgive that, I think, is what they're trying to do. Because they don't want people talking about the nursing home thing because he's not the only one that made that call. There were multiple governors that made that call. And I'm pretty sure that they were all Democratic governors. So
Yeah,
they're kind of,
I've
yeah.
heard bits and pieces of that. Like you talked about the Michigan governor. What's her name? I forget her name now.
Whitner,
Winter,
Gretchen
yes.
Whitner, I think.
Did the one in California do it too? I think.
Newsom, I don't know. Newsom is a piece of shit for a list of other reasons, a litany of other reasons. But I didn't hear anything about the nursing homes with him, but could be the case.
Wasn't he doing something today as well? He tried to he made some sort of statement today and I forgot what it was. Oh well,
Probably
it's
wearing two masks. Like everybody else is kind of like Texas has retracted their mask mandate, so is Mississippi, but I'm pretty sure Newsom is like everybody needs to wear two masks, maybe three. That's how he's working it. So he's the worst. I mean, I hope he gets recalled. I hope he gets thrown out of office. I hope he resigns because he deserves to. I mean, nothing to me is worse than someone who is a hypocrite. They tell everybody to close their businesses. Kids can't go to school. You have to wear a mask. Nobody can dine indoors in a restaurant. And there he is at the French Laundry in Napa Valley having dinner side by side with 12 of his closest friends, maskless, indoors at a restaurant. Like, it's just absolutely insane. Like, he should resign, but he's not going to.
so another thing that was coming up was the what's that the stimulus checks.
Yeah, that just passed today. The stimulus bill just passed today.
Yeah, another 14 trillion, and they're I was
Oh, it's
reading through the.
1.9 trillion, but
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
14,000. Yeah, yeah.
What 1.9 trillion? Excuse me. And hold on, let me mute this or make sure it doesn't play. Yeah, the I was reading through this article that was this the New York Post, and I was scrolling down, and part of it said that they hadn't even spent the money that from the first one, and I'm trying to think how could you possibly spend that much money in the first? What was it like 3.9 or something? Something.
I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I
I
don't
mean,
I don't
even
remember how much.
even 1 trillion is like ridiculously high. I mean, there was a video on YouTube and I can't remember where I saw it that said in order to pay off the original stimulus, if you paid $1 for every second, it it would take like 100,000 years. I don't know if it was that long. It was probably it was a long time. I don't think it was that long though, but very it would take a very long period of time if you paid $1 for every second. It would take an enormous amount of time just to pay off that first package, that first stimulus package.
Right. Has there been two? Is this the third one? Because I think the first one was 600, the second one was 1200, and now this one is 1400 per person.
Oh,
I
oh,
don't really remember.
oh,
It's
okay. Yeah,
it's
you're
all a
talking.
blur.
Yeah, yeah, there was the first one where everyone got 1,200, and the second one I think you're talking about where it was like 600. That was for people who applied for unemployment insurance, I think.
Could be. So we've only had one previous stimulus check. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, because I got a payment. I didn't ask for it. I was like, but it just came to me. So yeah, yeah, I have this I have direct deposit with the IRS, so I just got a deposit in my account when it came. It just they sent me an email or something. Oh yeah, they sent me an actual letter. I think they might send me an email too, saying you're it's about to come through, and it came through like a couple days later. So, um,
Right, right. But yeah, it just passed today. So I mean, I remember the last time I also got a $1,200 check. It came within like a week, maybe even less. So they're moving quick.
oh, well, mine wasn't that quick there.
Hmm.
Yeah, mine took like a couple. I think it was like at least a couple. I would say a couple of months. I don't remember. I just
Mm.
remember logging in and like all of a sudden it was there. But after a period of time, the yeah, and the idea of doing 1.9 trillion again. It's like, where are they coming with these ridiculously high numbers? I also heard that this isn't really benefiting anybody as far as like helping them. It's more or less helping larger corporations. Um, have you heard anything about that?
I mean, it's we're causing massive inflation because this money doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when you start printing money, which is essentially what we're going to be doing, because this money does not exist right now, and they're just making money up out of thin air and giving it to us. It's backed by nothing. It's going to lower the value of the dollar. So, I mean, as we can look back in history, every time that you start pumping money into a system, the value of the dollar goes lower and lower and lower. And I mean, massive inflation is what really hurt um, Germany during after World War I. They lost World War I. They were destitute. I remember reading stories of people like using paper money as toilet paper because it was more valuable to wipe their butt with it than to actually spend it because it was useless. I work with a guy at the radio station who gave me a bill from I think it's Zimbabwe, and it's $100 trillion, but it's like I think it's like $4 US.
Oh,
Like
okay.
that, so you know what I mean? Like $100 trillion bill I have for like Zimbabwe currency, and it's like $4.
Is it really
So
100 trillion? 100
I can
trillion?
show you I can send you a picture of it after the show.
That's fine. That's like even a trillion is ridiculously high, but
Yeah,
100
a
trillion is
hundred
beyond.
trillion. I want to say it's from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe dollars to the U.S. Um, maybe it's 70 US. Okay, that's pretty good actually. Yeah.
Yes.
But now it's telling me is worth 40 cents. So I don't, I guess it depends. I need to do more investigation. But
Okay.
right now it looks like it's 40 cents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it real? Is it look
All
genuine?
right, not even 4. Yeah, I mean it's a real bill. I remember when I was traveling in Laos and even Vietnam, I remember being like a Vietnamese millionaire. I remember Howard Stern used to play a show called like Who Wants to Be a Turkish Millionaire, and it was like you'd win like probably 100 to 500 bucks or something like that. But that's just because the currency is so inflated. In Laos, I remember like we would get bills for thousands of kip. I think is the currency, but it's the same story. It's just like 1,000 kip is like $5, maybe
Mhm.
less. So it's
What
going, yeah, it's going to be really problematic when you start having serious amounts of inflation because a lot of people are, spending money that has just been created out of thin air and the value of the dollar goes down,
right.
right? So.
My original question though was not really about
The
the
corporation.
inflation, the corporations. Yeah, exactly. Like I had heard somewhere that most of the money that's being printed or put out for this for the stimulus is actually going to the corporations, is what I meant. So they're the ones that are making big on this. I don't have all the details on that. So
Neither do I. Here's the thing is like a lot of these bill I mean the bill is 600 pages. So obviously I didn't go through it all, but or any of it. But they do try to like sneak some stuff in there. I remember at the last stimulus bill they were putting some things in there about like horse doping, like horse race dope, like weird shit that shouldn't even be involved in anything. They're trying to sneak into this bill so that they, when they pass it, they can pass like a whole bunch of stuff at once. I
yeah,
don't know if you remember, they were trying to pass like the $15 minimum wage,
right,
right?
right.
And they're pushing for that in the bill, even though it has nothing really to do with any stimulus checks. They were just trying to listen, let's all put all this shit in one because there's everyone's so thirsty to get that money out, and to placate the people, that hopefully they'll just pass it and then it's kind of like this is going to come along with it.
Well,
It's like a side order.
yeah, it's pretty common though. I mean, for them to for any bill, they stick something in there just to see if they can get it passed. Um,
Right.
but I know, yeah, the stuff they're putting in this one was wrong. It's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with it. But I mean, a lot of times, I believe this is my opinion. They put that stuff in there just as a bargaining way, so that there's more in there, so that they can take it out and not lose as much if it wasn't there in the first place.
That could
So
absolutely be the technique, the strategy that they're using as well. That's a good point.
So, so they
But
know that some of the stuff is just ridiculously, not going to pass, and they go, well, then they'll say, well, let's take that out, and they're not worried because they knew it wasn't going to go through anyway. So,
right, right. I really think they were pushing for the $15 minimum wage, which would be really devastating, as yeah, like more for people that are low wage earners than anyone. But in regards to the corporations, I don't know anything. I don't know if there was like tax breaks or like, do you know how it would benefit the corporations or?
that they were somehow getting more of the money out of it somehow. I
Okay,
don't know
I have no clue.
exactly. So they made it seem like the money is going to the people, when the average citizen, that is, but and there was a large amount, but there wasn't nowhere near as much as going to large corporations. So I don't know. I don't know how that was going to happen. I didn't. I wish I had a source for that to cite, but I don't know off the top.
Yeah, neither do I, unfortunately.
Oh,
Uh,
let's. Oh, did you want to add something else to that?
no, 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 no. I'm good.
Okay, I will just make this a little bit more lighthearted here. I'm going to
Sure.
show last week's question. Shoes or barefoot? This was actually 4 days ago. So the question was shoes or barefoot. The answers were: I love wearing shoes. Barefoot. I prefer sandals. I often just walk around in socks, or I don't care.
Um, like what? I'll just say shoes. Probably shoes.
Yeah, 77%. I have it up on the screen right now. 77% people say they wear shoes all the time. Uh, barefoot is only 6%. And actually, the next one below, I love wearing shoes, is actually 8%. They just didn't care. So it was just a silly question. I wanted to see how many
Yeah.
people. We got 3.3 in 4 days. We got 3.3 thousand votes. So
Oh wow.
apparently, people thought it was important enough to vote on that one.
Yeah,
So.
clearly.
Um, as far as I was, I usually wear shoes all the time, so I'd probably fall into the category of I love wearing shoes. I do know though that there is a movement out there where people like to walk around in bare feet out in public, and I do find that kind of interesting, especially if you're in a city. Um,
Oh, that's not a good move.
I can't imagine. I mean, the only place I can imagine, any city, the only city I've ever seen that looks clean. I don't know how clean it actually is Las Vegas. Um,
Really? Okay, interesting.
Las Vegas is like, when I went there, it was like super clean. I mean, it's probably, well, I was on the strip, so I c- based on what I saw, I could imagine maybe people walking around barefoot in that city, in that, at least that part of the city. But where I'm from, I'm in DC. There was a woman. I didn't see this, but I used to work with somebody who was a driver. He'd drive around in DC, and I would tell him where to go for the traffic that I was doing. and he said he
Mhm.
saw a woman actually running in DC barefoot and the just
Ew.
jogging. And my first thought is, and I think he thought this too, is like, why why would you risk running around in DC? DC is one of the dirtiest cities around. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
filthy.
Yeah, and who knows what you're gonna step in? So, some homeless person's urine on the side,
Ew, yeah, not the move. Not the move to be
um,
barefoot in a city.
yeah, yeah, and, my thought is, if you're gonna run barefoot, I mean, maybe you could try doing it, in a subdivision or something, somewhere where there's a lot of houses, maybe. I mean, that may
Mhm.
be more the most likely it's gonna be a lot more cleaner.
Yeah. But
In
still,
a
even, like, with rocks and dirt and sticks, like, I feel like you would be prone to, you know, getting
Yeah.
something stuck in your foot or making it cutting your leg or something, you know?
I'm not even sure if it's still a movement anymore. It was about this was like 10 years ago. So I remember there was
Mm.
some sort of movement of where people were saying we need to walk around in bare feet, and I was like, it was we had a discussion at the place I worked at, and it was like, why all of a sudden now? Why not 10 years earlier? I
Yeah.
don't even know what's going
I
on anymore.
remember that. My cousin, I don't think he still is, but he used to be a marathon runner, and there was this whole like barefoot movement to kind of like return to the environment in which we evolved. Obviously, we didn't have shoes in the savannah when we were evolving into current form. So a lot of people were wearing those bare feet, and that's in quotes because it was like a brand of shoe, but it didn't have like any sole support or anything. It was essentially just protecting your skin. Do you know what I'm talking about? And it looked like an aquatic shoe, but it was for land running.
I saw a couple of different versions. I saw one where it actually looked like a foot.
Yeah,
Um, it's shaped like you would put almost like a glove would fit to your hand. This would be a
right. Individual toes and
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Those were so ugly.
And I also saw there was another kind of shoe that was for both men and women, where it was made for people who like to walk in like barefoot, but didn't want people to know. So it would look like a normal shoe from above, but below it was not. It was apparently very
Ew.
soft.
Oh, soft. I thought it was just like bare feet at the bottom, like just a shoe on top. But
Yeah, I don't think so. No, no, I don't think it was like that. I do remember one of the things when I was in high school, it was mostly the girls that did this. They walked around in moccasins a lot that didn't have any soles.
yes. I remember that movement quite well. I wanted moccasins, but never got
Yeah,
them.
but that was I don't know if that's still going on or not, but that was I wasn't really a movement of sorts, but that's the closest I ever saw. So,
Yeah, I think that is over. That trend is over.
what I'd like to discuss, if you'd like to discuss, you and I had discussed this before about doing a small debate about conspiracy theories.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So I would like to take the stance against conspiracy theories, though I'm not saying I'm completely against them, and you would
Mhm.
take the stance for them.
Sure.
So okay, what I'll do is I'll give you my view on what conspiracy theories, how I feel about them, and then you can come back and we can discuss this and see where we go with this.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, the conspiracy theories, a lot of times when I've seen them, I tend to. I'm not saying that I completely rule them out because I have an open mind, meaning I'll look at the evidence if there's any evidence and see how if it's for or against if there is an actual conspiracy. But a lot of times what I've noticed when people talk about conspiracy theories is that they'll take a side uh, and they will only look at the evidence that validates what they want to believe.
Mhm.
And the ironic thing is some of these people, I'm not saying all of these people are like this. A lot they are is that they'll say something to the effect, "Well, I'm thinking outside the box. I'm open-minded." And it's like, but you're only looking at something that things that validate your point of view. You're refusing to look at things don't that counter what you want to believe. So doesn't
Sure.
that make you more closed-minded?
Yes. Yes.
So how do you feel when it comes to conspiracy theories? I mean, give your point of view on that.
Totally depends on the theory that we're talking about. Um,
Okay.
I just to me, I'm all about the evidence. We look at the evidence. With a lot of things, we'll never know the truth. It will try to, the people who are at fault will try to bury it, or you know move on to a different scandal, and nobody's really talking about what really happened at during 9/11, because Trump happened, and the COVID happened. We're on again. People, I don't want to say people forget, not that we forgot 9/11, but the attention to things passes quickly because time moves quickly, right? Um, but I just kind of look at evidence, and if things look very suspicious, again, I can't take anybody to court, so it's not like I can really rally up all of the evidence and interview everybody I want to interview. A lot of people are dead. A lot of people are just not available. A lot of people are off the grid. A lot of people who are involved you don't even know about. Obviously, I feel like I have a very low level of. We all do, of when it comes to intelligence. It's not like they're posting a lot of CIA documents for the public to see that are, you know, uh, non-disclosed. So it's hard, but if you dig, you can find stuff that's interesting.
Well,
And then
well,
I kind of, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you bring up the, like, the CIA and all that in the government. One of the things I have a problem with when it comes to conspiracy theories
Hmm.
is, people will say, "I don't believe the government's lying." And I say, "Okay, I agree with that. The government always seems to lie. That's not a problem. I agree with you on that." But then they'll say, whenever somebody from the government comes out and says, "Oh, but I saw this, this, and this," and then they'll say, "This person said this, and he's with the government, so we should trust him now," or "He was with this specific agency, now we should trust him." But at first they say that we shouldn't trust anybody from the government because the government's always lying.
Right. Yeah, well, that's not consistent, obviously. Like you said, people have already made their decision, their conclusion about what happened, and then they just they do bad science. They just, okay, I have my conclusion. Now I'm going to find the evidence to fill in the gaps that I need to prove my point, instead of the opposite. The good science is you have a hypothesis, you look for evidence, and then you come to a conclusion. So that's what people do. I really think that people, including myself, really enjoy a good conspiracy theory. Really enjoy, like, there's something fun about not believing the story that was told, and believing that there are alternate facts. I hate using that term, alternate facts, but a lot of what we've been told, I believe, is fake news, and a lot of people are, I think are victim to what they call, like, the fallacy of authority. Like, if you hear it on TV, it must be true. If you hear a professor say it, it must be true. If you hear a doctor say it, it must be true, because you just say, well, they're an expert. Well, they're on TV for a reason. Well, they're a news anchor for a reason. Why would those people lie to us? They are the authority. And you just kind of fall victim to that way of thinking, where you just think, oh, someone is an expert on something, or they're on, like I said, on TV, so they know, but they don't. Or
No, they don't.
they're just getting fed from somebody else, or they have an agenda, or they have a bias, they have an opinion. I mean, and I say this all the time, but it's like, with even something like, let's say, economics, where you think I mean, it's a relatively hard science. It's based mostly on math, and you have experts in the field who, like, disagree with each other on almost everything. Who claim to be experts and agree on nothing in the same discipline, but they're both experts. So
Right.
if two people who claim to be experts in a discipline, just say medicine, and one is saying take hydroxychloroquine or take ivermectin or something, and the other one is saying it's going to kill you, and they're both doctors, well, shit, who do you believe? That's when you have to come in as the peasant, as the pleb, or whatever, and you have to kind of do some of your own research, and not just kind of wait to be baby bird fed all of your information from people. You kind of have to start being the miner and start digging. So,
Well, yeah, uh, as far as the statement you made about believing people, I can tell you that when I first started I do traffic reports, and when I first started working at Shadow Traffic, the guy who ran the operation, his name was Abe Howard. He told me straight up that when I was doing my traffic reports, and this goes for news and anything else like we're talking about, just it doesn't matter if you know what you're talking about, just as long as it sounds like you know what you're talking about. That
100%.
and the people will believe anything that you're saying. So
My dad always told me that. I feel like if you say something with enough conviction, people will believe you. I mean, I remember growing up, my dad was pretty masterful at this, but he, when I would ask him a question, and if he didn't know the answer to it, he kind of phrased it as if science hadn't figured it out yet. You know what I mean? Like he'd be like, "Oh, they don't know," like cause sort of a thing where it was like no one knows, but he just didn't know. So we made it seem like just the knowledge had not been acquired yet, and I just believed him. Well, of course you do, because you're a kid. You don't, your parents know everything when you're a kid, and then you grow up and you go, "Oh shit, they didn't know fucking anything." Like, but that's okay. Whoops. But
so
yeah, if you say something with enough conviction, that's it's the art of debate. It's the art of debate with like, and I remember like Kamala Harris during the presidential debate when she went after Biden and like basically called him a racist and said that he was against busing and all of that jazz, and really went after him like at the jugular. And then when she became his VP pick and they questioned her about it, she was laughing. She's like, "It's a debate. Like you're
yeah,
supposed to do that." I don't know if
yeah,
you remember
that
that.
made any sense. Yeah, I know.
And
Like
you're just
I saw that.
like, "What the fuck?" But she's not wrong. Like, I mean, it's dirty politics, but that's politics. Like, you don't need a modifier. Like everybody knows politics is dirty. So, yeah, I mean, that's part of the art. That's part of the craft, is to make your opponent look dumb and persuade the audience. So, she was just doing her job. What can you do?
So I do want to ask you about when you brought up the fact about the two doctors. Like one
Yeah,
doctor says one thing, another. Well, in a lot of situations, I've found when it comes to conspiracy theories, um, when people want to believe in a conspiracy theory, they'll usually pick somebody, obviously, that validates what they want to hear, and they'll promote that person. But
sure.
I've often heard that if there's a group of specialists or people who like maybe doctors, um, or anyone who has a specialty in that field, it turns out that a lot of times that the number of people who believe that or are trying to say that tend to be very small compared to the people who don't believe it. So that's where peer review would come into play. So like you would have, so you would have one person, if you had one person saying one thing and another saying another, you wouldn't just take those two at their word. You would just you would take and take see if there's any peer reviewed studies that valid which one which direction would that go after they did the study. Did it go more for there was a conspiracy or not, or it validates, I should say, not a conspiracy, but it validates what the conspiracy leads you to believe or not. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yes.
And oftentimes, and this is why I have a problem with people who often believe conspiracy theories outright. Like I said, I'm not completely against them because I'm open to them. um the but if they tend to only listen to maybe the number of people that, like you said, like one person that agrees with them. But then, like I said, they'll only pick a small number of people, I'm sorry. That oftentimes it will. I've seen. I can't back this up with any facts, but oftentimes it'll only be a small group of people that validate what they want to hear. Where there's a larger group of people, like say 90% of the people say no, no, that's not what happened, and they're only listening to the 10% that's saying yes, this is what happened, and that validates their conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I mean, when you say 90%, are we talking about like the public? It is
Well, let me
90%
see.
of the public,
Let
or
me
90% of
let me give
the
you.
the
I,
experts, say, for
let me give you a better example. I may not
sure.
be saying this, so it's coming across clearly. Let's say like the 9/11 conspiracy, that it was, there's a lot of people say that's a conspiracy in some way. So,
Sure.
and so like
I'm
I've
one of
heard.
them.
Okay, that's fine. And I've always, the one thing I've always questioned about 9/11 is building number 7. I'm sure you've probably questioned that as well, right?
Demolition of Tower 7, yeah, where it
Yes.
just looked like it imploded on itself for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what I've heard is the people who believe that it was a demolition where charges were put into the building to make it purposely come down.
Mm,
Well, often I've heard this argument before that they'll only listen to the people who say that the chart, like the experts that say that's a controlled demolition. There's no other way that could possibly be,
right.
it can't, it's, with for any other reason. And yet I've heard other people say that there's a large percentage of people say, no, 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 it is possible for that to happen. And that percentage tends to be much larger. We're talking like 80, 90% of the experts, so-called
Mm.
experts, will say, no, no, that it can happen. And so the people who want to believe it was a controlled demolition will only listen to the like 10 or 20% that say of the experts that say, no, it can only be a controlled demolition. You see what I'm saying? You understand? That's what
Yes,
I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. So, like, even if the majority of the experts say one thing, the people who are interested in believing conspiracies will just believe the 20% or 10% of people who say that, are just kind of congruent with what they want to believe.
Right.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good science. You shouldn't have. I just think like you and I kind of can both agree where, we don't believe every conspiracy, but we're happy to keep the door cracked open. We're not married to any ideas. We're open to being persuaded to other conclusions, which is just kind of how I live. Like I'm not like that's 100%, controlled demolition in towers. I never say 100% about anything because I can't. How can I be certain of anything? I'm certain of nothing, but there are a lot of things that are suspicious, more so than just the demolition of Tower 7. But I tell people this all the time: do 15, 20 minutes of research of the relationship between the Bush and the Saudi royal family and the bin Ladens, and then tell me that that doesn't sound kind of fishy.
I,
Again, no proof, maybe, but like very, very suspicious how close they all were. The Saudi royal family and the Bushes were in the energy business together. So whether, again, I don't know if it was like uh, a an orchestrated effort to like go into Iraq and get oil, or if it was they kind of had an idea but turned a blind eye because they didn't want to piss off the Saudis. Like whatever it is, I'm not quite sure, but it just doesn't add up that it was again, the fact that I think 19 of, I think all but two of the hijackers were Saudi nationals and we invaded Iraq. What?
yeah.
Afghanistan? Like,
Well,
why did we go into those two countries when it was a Saudi offensive?
right.
So,
Well, we do remember though that after the attack, after we went in and attacked Afghanistan, then Iraq, and then we are going to go into North Korea after that, which made absolutely no sense.
right,
Um, and there was a fourth country in the list as well. I forget what it is. Um, and it was like I was like North Korea. I was like, what does that have to do with anything? I was like,
right,
that would always seem so way, way, way out there. I was like, what? And obviously, yeah, the first, like you're saying, the other ones don't make any, doesn't, none of it makes any sense. It would, but I kind of chalk that off as being like they were looking for an excuse to go into those countries, and they were using that. Well, now we can just use this, and people are going to be behind us. They're not going to object. Whereas before, there was the attack. If we tried to go in there, they would have objected. So
100%. But they kept talking about weapons of mass destruction and Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, albeit was a piece of shit, was had nothing to do with 9/11
yeah, I
or
know.
was not involved with 9/11. I mean, maybe like was like death to America, low key, but wasn't involved. Didn't orchestrate 9/11 at all. We knew that, but we were going after him and not the Saudi royal. Well, the thing is, we do a lot of business with Saudi Arabia, so we kind of want to make sure that those relationships are nice and clean, nice and well oiled.
Mhm.
No pun intended, but like, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I mean, if you think about it like that, if it's just kind of like a business move, then that's really disgusting to think that there were essentially no repercussions on the Saudi royal family, and we're still pretty on quote good terms with them, even though like how they, I think it was like 2 years ago, Jamal Khashoggi, I think he worked for Washington Post. He was from Saudi Arabia, I believe, but he was living in the States and he was like hacked to death in a Turkish embassy. Or no, sorry. Was it a Saudi embassy in Turkey, I want to say. And the prince whatever salon, whatever the young one, he was the one that green lighted it. I think he even admitted to it. It's like, yeah, we did.
Hmm.
No repercussions. Like, I mean, it's pretty wild. He was an American journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, but from Saudi Arabia. But he said things against the royal family, and they didn't like that too much, and they went after him. So
No, no, let me ask you this. I'm kind of changing it a little bit slightly,
sure,
but
sure.
try to. Do you know who James Randi is?
I don't know who's that.
Really? Oh, okay. You would probably hate James Randi then.
Okay.
James Randi is like the one of the biggest skeptics out there. Now he's getting up in age. I think he's still alive. I'm only I know he had some health issues and he may have passed on. I don't know, but he was really he would go on TV shows and he would debate people about conspiracy theories. He was a magician, and so he was all about illusion. He knew about how people would
Hmm.
deceive people. So he would he was always trying to prove that somebody was trying to deceive somebody, and conspiracies were one of the big ones. He's also the person who's responsible for putting Penn and Teller together as an act. So he matched them up. So if you ever wonder how they got together, it's because of James Randi. So uh,
Wait, who together?
Penn and Teller, do you
Who's
know
that?
Penn and Teller? You don't know who Penn and Teller are? Really?
Mm-mm,
Penn,
no.
Penn Jillette, big guy. Really? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
Say what?
Penn and Teller, they usually work in Las Vegas, but they have TV show the TV show Bullshit with Penn and Teller. They came out
Ben
about 15.
Teller.
Penn and Teller, like Pennsylvania.
Oh, I know the Penn Gillette. Is that who you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, he's an atheist. I know who he is. I didn't know that he had like a sidekick.
Really? Teller? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No. Yeah, magic comedy skepticism. Okay, I'm looking it up now.
Okay. Okay.
No, I didn't know this was a thing. So it's
Oh,
kind of like I don't want to say like a variety show, but kind of like that. Like,
well, the Penn and Teller, they became popular back in the 80s, and when they originally came out, they would actually divulge how they did their tricks. After a time, they decided not to do that anymore. But yeah, they're magicians, and they're very much into the skeptic realm as well. So they're anti conspiracy theory, very much so.
anti-conspiracy theory.
Yeah, very much. Yes,
But I
and
would think someone who is skeptical would be skeptical of the mainstream.
well, when it comes to, well, that's where the word skeptic reverses in a sense. So when it comes to conspiracy theories, skeptics usually mean that they're the ones that believe in conspiracy theories, but in this case they're skeptics for everything. It's kind of weird how that works. I know it throws me off as well whenever someone
Okay.
talks about conspiracy theories. The word skeptic, it's thrown back and forth and means different things. Sorry, yeah, it's always confused me as well. But yeah, they don't believe in conspiracy theories, but they are really hardened skeptics on a lot of things. So, but they don't believe in conspiracy theories though. So,
Yeah, it
but
says there a pair became associated with the advocacy of scientific skepticism and right libertarianism.
yeah, yeah, I want
Okay.
to. Yeah,
I've seen Penn on a few different, like, because I'm big on atheism, so I've seen him on a few of those podcasts or like roundtables he's been featured on. I
okay.
actually knew him. I don't know if you've ever watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but
I've heard of it. I don't think I've seen it. Oh,
yeah.
has he been
So
on
he was
that?
like one of the characters in that, and that's how I first knew who he was. So I was like, oh, I didn't know this Sabrina the Teenage Witch guy was doing atheism stuff, but little did I know that he had a massive career like leading up to that. So
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, so yeah, and Teller is well known for not speaking during their magician acts. So he does speak. You can actually type in Teller speaks on YouTube, and you'll see videos where he actually talks. And he's very articulate. So he's very
oh.
smart. But anyway, yeah, Penn and Teller are definitely relative. They are pretty much a well-known act. But anyway, I'm getting back to James Randi.
Hmm.
James Randi, when it comes to conspiracy theories, one of the things I believe it was him that said this. He said that when it comes to conspiracy theories, what happens is one person who's claiming to be an expert in the conspiracy theory itself, who believes that there was a conspiracy, will quote someone else. That person will then quote that someone will then quote them, and another person will quote them. And what ends up happening is uh, there is no actual source. All they do is they just basically quote themselves, and it becomes a circle. So they're constantly just quoting themselves over and over and over. There is no actual
Mm.
source for the conspiracy. They just heard it from one person, and it becomes like they just basically quote themselves, and there is no, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just circular, so there's real no original source. Everyone is just kind of quote like it could be saying someone saying, "Well, I thought this happened," and the next person says, "Oh, this happened." It's also the game of telephone as well, where the level of certainty gets distorted. Where someone might say, "I think this happened," and then the next person says, "Oh, this person said it happened." So, um, yeah, I understand how that can be very um, what's the word I'm looking for? Confusing, I guess, of what is true.
We got a comment that said, this is from Swigja. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He makes videos on YouTube. I've seen him before. He makes really good videos. He said James Randi died a few months ago, so I didn't know that. So,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, he was. I knew he was his health. He was not in good health for a long time. So it's sad to hear that for me anyway, because I've been watching a lot of his videos for a while. So thanks for that. The update on that. Um, but James Randi, yeah, he was he if you type in James Randi, you'll see what I'm talking about. He was always trying to debunk somebody who was making false claims, and conspiracy theories were definitely in that. So, as far as 9/11, have you heard of the video called Loose Change?
I have heard of the movie Loose Change. I'm not quite sure what. Just do a little bit of a refresher because I listened to. I've told you about Tim Dillon and he's mentioned Loose Change.
Okay, Loose
Um,
Change. I've
yeah,
watched it. I haven't seen it in a while, but basically, it goes through kind of like what you were saying. It talks about the different aspects of 9/11. How did all the Saudis, all the people you were talking about, they had
yeah.
connections with people in our country, government leaders, and it goes through and it says, "Don't you think there's something weird about that?" It doesn't. It never really provides any proof through the whole video, but it does make suggestions. Now, I think it was James Randi, and the reason I'm bringing this up, uh, brought out the fact that whenever one of those speculations was disproven, they would simply go back into the video, and I don't know if it was Loose Change or another video, but they would simply go back and edit that section out and put another segment in there and never actually divulge that they were wrong all along.
So they would
So
post edit, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
that.
exactly. And then, so like so if you had an original version of the video, you would see that they said something, and then later on it would say something completely different, or it'd just be omitted altogether.
Well, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good. When was that made? Like in 2004? Like a while ago, right? Or
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
okay.
I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. I'm assuming.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
look it up because again, I did hear Tim Dillon talking about it, but I never saw it.
who's that? Who's that again? Tim Dillon?
Tim Dillon, he's like my favorite comedian right now.
Oh,
He's
okay.
fantastic. Yeah.
Is he into conspiracy theories?
Yes. I actually credit him for really like like I didn't even know I was interested in conspiracy theories really until him. About 2 years ago, I started listening to him, and I thought he was just really funny because he's a comedian, so he is really funny. But he was talking uh, when he would do his podcast. It was almost like at the beginning he was talking about in a different language because he would make all of these references, and I didn't know what any of them were. So I would write them down, like what's the Franklin scandal, like who's whatever Jack Ruby, who killed Lee Harvey Oswald, who killed JFK, all that sort of stuff, and became just more and more acquainted with the big conspiracy theories, and what the go like what most people who are in the conspiracy game what they think, like like the single bullet theory with JFK, and was there a second shooter, like all of those kind of details. I just started kind of filling in, and then as I watched this podcast more and more, I was became a now I'm able to fully follow along. And when he says something about you know um whatever, like the Franklin scandal, let's use that one because I'd never heard of that before. I know what he's talking about now, and he was really big into Epstein, went in hard on Epstein. in terms of like all the details, and spoke to journalists who were very well versed in Ghislaine Maxwell's family history and who her father was. Like her whole family is in the whole intelligence business. Her dad, Robert Maxwell, was like a triple agent working. He was a Jewish guy, but he was living in the UK. He was like part of the, I forget what the UK something six. I forget what their unit. I forget what it is. Um, whatever the CIA equivalent is in the UK. He was part of that. He was part of like he was working with the Russians as an agent and also in the Mossad uh, with Israeli intelligence. So I mean, the guy was just kind of had his hands in everything, but was like a media mogul, like a British media mogul, and like that's kind of like how he made his money, or maybe that's kind of how he laundered his money. I'm not quite sure, but nevertheless, like thanks to Tim Dillon, uh, he kind of um, made me aware of something that I didn't even know I was interested in, really, if that makes sense.
I get you.
So, like, I didn't know anything about it, and then when I started to learn about it, I'm like, oh my god, this shit is really interesting.
Well, let me ask, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you. Did you have something
No,
else?
go ahead.
Okay, well, you see, I used to firmly believe years ago that the JFK assassination was in fact a conspiracy,
Was
and
or was not? Did you say?
was a conspiracy that
Was it?
that
Okay. Okay. Okay.
was, yes, was, and uh the and I watched. Have you seen the JFK movie that came out? Was it 91? I think it was.
No, no, but the John, what is it? Something Oliver, Oliver
Yeah,
Stone. What is it? Right?
yeah, yeah. Oliver Stone. Yeah, he's the one that directed it.
Yeah, that led to a resurgence of an interest in the conspiracy. But yeah, I didn't see it, but I'm familiar with the reference.
Okay. Well, anyway, the that. Oops. You okay?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. That was pretty loud. Um, the over time though, I realized that's being kind of closed-minded because I wasn't listening to any other point of view. Anytime someone else came on and said, I say it's not a conspiracy, I'll just say, oh, they just don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And then I started saying opening up, so to speak, and I would listen to the other side. And some of the things that they say, I started to realize, well, maybe it's not a conspiracy. So at this point, I'm still open to the possibility, but I'm more leaning the opposite direction now. So I've changed my tune on that. I think it's more than likely not a conspiracy that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in that. But I'm still open to the possibility, but I'm nowhere near as far to the idea that it's a conspiracy that I was, way back in the day. So, you talked about the magic bullet theory about how
Yeah, the magic bullet, or they call the single bullet theory, something like
yeah,
that. Like, yeah,
yeah,
it's
have you,
essentially the same thing where it was like the bullet would have had to go through like JFK and hit this part of his arm and then hit the guy in the front. I forget who was in the front of the motorcade, but essentially, like it would have had to happen. It would have been a miracle or some sort of like magic bullet for that to have happened if it was only one bullet, suggesting that it probably wasn't that and that there was a second shooter. And if you look at like the Zapruder film, which I think is the only footage they have of the actual assassination, that his head like cocks to the back.
right.
So, and if when they show like on the grassy knoll, like where the guy shot him, it looks like there was a second shooter coming from a different angle.
Well, you see, there's a video on YouTube, and it was very convincing that shows that there is no magic bullets. In fact, the reason why people say there is a magic bullet is
Hmm.
because who's the governor that was sitting in that got shot? That was obviously
The
John F.
governor
Kennedy.
of Texas, but
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know who it was.
I can't
Honestly,
remember
I
his name.
don't
I'll
see
just
the
call him the
name.
governor. Anyway, the
Okay.
bullet, whenever they say there's a magic bullet, the reason why that doesn't make any sense is because they always have JFK sitting perfectly forward, sitting straight ahead, as well as the governor. They're both sitting straight ahead.
Right.
And if that were the case, then yeah, it would be a magic bullet. But they're not taking into consideration that they weren't sitting straight ahead. They were both leaning in different directions. And when you take that into
Okay.
consideration, the bullet actually makes perfect sense. And there's a video on YouTube that shows this.
Is
Like
it a
this,
Mythbusters? I think I've seen it. Is it Mythbusters?
no, I
Oh,
no, it's
okay.
this is made by someone else. And of course, the people who believe in conspiracies, they're like ape. They're like, what are you talking about? Of course, it was a magic bullet. And their comments are like, this is, they don't believe it at all. Um, I'm not saying the guy's absolutely right, but he makes a very convincing argument that if you look at the Zapruder film and you see Kennedy's position, he made a image of how they were sitting, and you can actually see that the bullet goes in a straight line, it makes perfect sense.
Like physics wise, that
Yeah.
he would have a reaction, move in a certain direction. Again, I don't know as much as I should know about all the details, because they are important details. But I remember I watched this documentary, and again, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, because you don't know where these people are getting their information from. So in the documentary, there's just a lot of really suspicious things where the body was altered. Like, so he died it was in Dallas, right? Yeah. And he goes to the hospital in Dallas. I think he dies. I don't know if he's dead on arrival or he dies. I mean, he must have been dead. I mean, his brain fucking blew out. So
Right.
right. So they're looking at the body. They interviewed the person who was dealing with the body and what they saw. He goes. I don't know if it's considered Air Force One, but whatever. He's transported to, I think, DC, and they interviewed the person who, you know first saw the body in DC to do an autopsy, and the brain was completely removed, and it looked like the reports don't match,
Mm.
right? So like the report of all of the injuries and what happened, and the impact on the brain and the skull from Dallas don't match up at all with the reports of the body when it arrived in DC. It also wasn't. It was in a different bag when it arrived. I think something again. I need a refresher course, but I think he left in like a black bag, and then when he arrived, he was like in a green one.
Mhm.
And then they looked at the brain, and the brain was gone. It was an empty cavity. The skull was an empty cavity, and the skull was reconstructed in some way, as if to kind of show that whatever they were trying to show, that it he got hit from a certain angle, or there's only they were scared if that they wanted everything to look like it was a single shooter. It was Lee Harvey Oswald. They got him, and now then what, like 24 hours later he's shot dead by Jack Ruby. So it the body, the post-mortem was altered. Why would that be the case?
I
What are you
agree. I
trying to
agree.
cover up? So
I agree that that sounds suspicious, but also take into consideration that they're only going to show you the things that validate what they want you to believe.
absolutely.
So that's you got to be very cautious when you watch that stuff. So
Absolutely. And I mean, I prefaced that at the beginning with, like, again, you don't know where they're getting their sources. But if these are the people that were really handling the body, they were there during the day of the assassination, they were there to unload the body. And again, this documentary is probably like 10 years old. I don't know if some of these people are dead now, because he died in 63. Well, yeah, 63. Not too long ago, but long enough ago that if they are who they say they are, and they're telling the truth, then holy shit, right? Like,
mm,
so, and there's a lot of uh I think there was some problem. Some people think that it Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA operative, that he was part of MK Ultra, that he was being, I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with MK Ultra and what they were doing, but it
mm.
was essentially like a mind control program
No,
that
I'm
was,
not,
yeah,
not
yeah,
familiar.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. They think
The
that,
but can I say something? He
yeah,
did
yeah.
have Lee Harvey Oswald was responsible for an attempted assassination a few, like, was that 6 months earlier? I can't remember who he
Was it
attempted to
on?
assassinate.
Wasn't Kennedy? It was someone else, right?
No, someone else. Yeah, I don't remember who it
Yeah.
was, but I don't think that attempt succeeded. And I don't think they found out about it until after he was arrested for this one.
Mm,
I don't remember all the details. I wish I knew more details about that one. I wish I knew off the top of my head who it was.
yeah.
Um, and also talking about the where the shots came from. The shot where he was from was actually, well, based on my experience just playing video games, and I know that's not me being an expert in anything, but um, I know that if a target is moving away from you in a straight line, it is much easier to shoot something than it is going from left to right. Going from left to
Mm,
right is extremely difficult if you're only firing a couple of shots. Um, that you have to be a really master shot to be able to, if like what I'm saying is the grassy knoll, it's got to be one of the hardest shots ever if you're only firing one shot or two shots.
right.
Unless you have like automatic, a gun that fires multiple rounds quickly, you're not gonna hit any. You really have to be a master shot to do that. From where he was, it was, it allegedly was in the books depository, that would be a very easy, relatively easy shot for someone who knows how to handle a gun.
Right.
And the people keep on saying, no, no, it's not the easiest. But it's like I said, the people try to say there's a gunshot, there's an extra gunman on the grassy knoll, and they say that because they heard the shot come from over there. I've taught sound. I used to teach sound design, how sound is created, and sound is very deceptive. You can have sound coming in from from one spot, and you think it's coming from the exact opposite location. Sound is very easy to manipulate, not manipulate, but just make it deceive you and make it sound like it's coming from the opposite direction when it's actually coming from one direction, a single direction. So the idea that they heard the shot from the grassy knoll could simply be an echo, refraction of sound, or
Sure.
refraction of sound. I mean, it could be anything. So the idea that all these people said I heard that sound really means nothing.
Hmm.
Um, it must. I mean, if they could also say if they actually saw someone, that would be a little bit better. But even eyewitness testimony is also kind of sketchy. So, um, but if you have like an actual video of something, obviously that would be much more. It's. I'm not saying Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, but at the same time, there's a lot of speculation that there was an extra gunman, and there's just nothing really. There's
Support that.
it's more speculation than, in my opinion, than anything else.
Oh, 100%. And it could be that people are, it is a conspiracy, but it's the wrong one. Maybe there really was only one shooter. Maybe there was no magic bullet or anything like that. But it could still be the fact that it was an inside job, or it was, a lot of people think that the mob had something to do with it because JFK's brother, not Ted, Robert, Bobby Kennedy, was
Mhm.
like really hard on the mob, and I think they made a lot of promises to the mob, like campaigning, and then were not living up to it when they got in office. And I think Bobby Kennedy was really going after them hard. And uh, I mean, that could have had something. People speculate that that could have had something to do with it. That it was the mob, and again, all of these. It's not just one bad apple, one bad elitist group. I mean, it could be a bunch of them working together, saying, "Let we got to get this guy out of here." I don't know if it had something to do with like the embarrassment of like the Bay of Pigs invasion. It could be CIA, could be the mob. But it is odd that something similar happened to Bobby Kennedy. With what's his name? It was like Hasham Hassan. I forget
I think
who.
it's Hassan.
Hassan Hassan, correct,
Something.
right?
That was it.
Palestinian guy,
Yeah.
and he's still in jail in San Diego. He's still in prison, by the way.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was also. A lot of people think that he was also a victim of MK Ultra, where they were using mind altering drugs and mind altering techniques. I think you'll really enjoy MK Ultra if you kind of dig a little bit. They also think Charles Manson may have been part of that program. Certainly, Ted Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber, was involved in that as well,
Hmm.
where they were um, uh, essentially poisoning people with LSD and other mind altering drugs, but mostly LSD, and watching how they would react. So the whole reason why we have acid in the United States is thanks to the CIA. They
Hmm.
brought it in here from, I think there was like a Swiss scientist that was working on it. The CIA got their hands on it. And the goal of MK Ultra was essentially to build like a Manchurian candidate, which is basically an assassin, where you can drug somebody, you put you know um, assign them on a mission, they go kill somebody, and then you would this is again in the perfect world, you have them go kill somebody, and then boom, you wipe their memory clean and they have no recollection of what they did. Like,
Hmm.
that was the goal. of MK Ultra.
I I just want to say I think it's time to wrap everything up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would think it might be if we could continue this discussion next week, maybe devote it
Yeah.
more
To be
to
continued. Dot dot dot.
I just want to say one final thing. In the JFK movie, I know this is it's a movie, so it's not perfect, but at the grassy knoll, they clearly showed in the parking lot behind the fence where the alleged shooter was supposed to be at a 1965 Mustang in the parking lot. The 1965 Mustang wasn't introduced until April 15th of 1964. So the shooting, the idea of a 60, I know it's just a movie glitch, but there's no way a 65 Mustang would be parked in the parking lot behind the grassy knoll on November
Right.
of 1963.
Now, is this because you're just kind of like into movies and all the little idiots?
Also,
Yeah,
also
okay.
because I'm into cars and everything too. So
Oh, okay. So could you identify it just by the way it looked?
yeah, it could have also been a 66 Mustang because anyone who knows anything about Mustangs know that bodies are identical. There's just subtle differences. But
Okay.
yeah, still, it's whatever year it was. It did not. The Mustang did exist in November of '63, but only as a prototype. It wasn't available to the public yet. So,
Ah, okay.
but it was just one of those funny things.
You
My dad
got me.
also, yeah, I got them. So, my dad also pointed out that there's a park in the JFK movie that's in DC where Kevin Costner and Donald Sutherland meet and they talk, and that park didn't exist at the time period that they talk where it was supposed to take place. So that's one of those other little goofs in the movie as well. So
Oh, I need to watch that. I wonder if it's on Netflix or something because I'll
I,
watch it this weekend.
I
Actually,
actually recommend it, whether or not you believe in the conspiracy or not. It's actually a pretty good movie. But
yeah,
yeah,
I would like to see it, and but I also need to watch before I would do that. I want to watch the Woody Allen documentary. I guess we can talk about that next week, hopefully, if I watch
which
it.
one?
Have you seen that?
Which that? Which so I
It's
can
called
look it up.
Allen versus Pharaoh. It just came out like a week or two ago,
Oh, okay.
where
No, I
like
didn't.
Woody Allen was again allegedly molesting his own children.
Oh yeah, wasn't that like Howard Stern was talking about that for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like pretty well known, but it's one of those things where, like, like with R. Kelly, it was like we all knew what was going on, but then when the documentary series came out, everybody had kind of a renewed interest in it and really got the grim details. It's kind of, I imagine, kind of like that, where there's renewed interest in Woody Allen and like what actually happened in his home because he married his stepdaughter, right? That's kind
I
of weird. So.
Well, I mean, it's he's not related to her, so it's not like
Well,
that big.
nobody helped raise her, and then he now fucks her, so that's kind of weird. But
I guess. I guess. I mean, as long as they're not
you,
related, I don't really think it's too big of a deal.
well,
I guess.
again, like, yeah, but I understand that. Like, if you're not related, fine. But like, imagine you're in a home and someone is your father, or this is your daughter. You're raised as such for
Yeah,
many years, and then you divorce the mother and marry the stepdaughter. That's bizarre.
it is. I guess it is bizarre. I mean, I'm just looking at it from a.
Not illegal, but it's odd to say the
Well, you
least.
know what? That's a good debate to have as well.
Okay, well then we'll save that for next week. Hopefully, I can at least watch an episode or two, and we can discuss that if you want to do that.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I didn't know that existed. So it's a TV series.
Yeah, it's I think it's a four-part documentary, and they're releasing it like episode by episode. So I think three have been released. I haven't seen any of them, but it's called Allen versus Pharaoh.
Yeah, I wrote the name down. I'll check it out. Okay, cool. And I'm sure
Yeah.
he's not partaking. I'm assuming in this. It's like he's not
Oh, I
gonna.
don't know. I don't think they're getting interviews from him, or it's probably just footage of the past. But I think there's a lot of like Dylan Farrow in it, who's his daughter, and Mia Farrow, who was his ex-wife. So again, I haven't seen it. I've just heard a lot about it. So hopefully, I can find some time and binge watch it this weekend. So
Okay. Okay. I'll check it out too. Cool. Alrighty.
cool.
Well,
Thank you for
that's
having me on today. It was a lot of fun.
yeah, it was fun. And yeah, next week we'll try to pick up where we left off. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time. And hang on for a second there.
Yeah. Thank you.